Oh man, what is happening, everybody? Sorry, we're a little bit late this evening. Of course, we got our special guest. Oh, Torquay decided to hang out with us tonight. Thank you very much, my baby bun. Yeah, so at any rate, so what is happening, everybody? So if y'all didn't catch the last live show is actually at the drag strip. And I'm getting some seat time with Project Revlon. She is a hateful little thing. I actually got some pretty decent times, all things considered. You know, the DA was hovering around 500-ish. I think the lowest pass I made was somewhere around, I want to say it was like, I don't know, 380, 350 above sea level, and the car was still rattling off 1060s. So, yeah, she's definitely doing really well. And, you know, to be honest with you, that rear seat delete shaved off right at 45 pounds. You know, weighed the car, I think it was 4420 is what the car weighed without me in it, which is, I'm sorry, 42. What the hell did the damn thing weigh? I'll have to go back and take a look. Boy, what are you doing? Anyway, but yeah, she's losing a little bit of weight, so that's always a good thing. But as far as what's going on around here, well, that time of year again, intake manifold porting, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's always fun, but it's just one of those deals where some of these things can get a bit time consuming. And there we go. One of the issues that that the Mopar intakes suffer from is a lot of the just the casting flash inside the runners. Before I get into that, let me say hello to all of my early birds here. Justin Becker saying, "What's up? What's up?" Yeah, get ready because your intake's getting featured on this, by the way, Justin. One and only SB340. What's up, buddy? Hey, what's up, man? Marco Corleone. Good evening, Professor Mason. I like it with the thumbs up. Just said I got to watch about half of it. Been busy as heck. I like it. One and only SB finally saying, finally caught you. TU saying, Ayo with the jab. I like it. Shelly saying, thanks for the invite. I like that. Sherrod saying, what's going on, brother? What's going on? What's happening? And one and only SB saying, long time, my friend. Glad to have you back. So, Mopar intake manifolds, you know, for the NA guys and for the boosted, this can be a bit of a sticking point, again, because you start to get into the casting flash, and those are some of the issues that these intakes have. Some of the intakes are super clean, and there's no way I can show you this stuff really on camera the way that we're set up here, but I'm working on a 392 intake. Well, it doesn't do me good if I point at them, but anyway, this is what I'm working on now. 392 intake. I've already done the throat. Hopefully this shows up. If not, I've got a light, son of a bitch, right over here. Give you guys an idea. That's the kind of work that we've got so far on that. Still need to do a hand finish and still need to get in there and plane it out a little bit, but that's a rough cut. And there's only so much of that I can stomach, guys. I mean, these 392 intakes can be pretty brutal. This one was not that bad. You can still see some of the machine marks in there. Most of that will be out of there when I'm done with it. So, give you an idea of some of the work, though. This one, the runners, can't really see it because they're dark. Anyway, the runners on this manifold actually don't look all that bad. But they still need to be opened up. Where those pieces come together, you can get some of this action here where you've got, you know, you've got in the direction of airflow, you get these lips where those pieces come together. It ends up making a bit of a mess of the airflow. Going in there and opening those things up and basically just blueprinting the intake can definitely help as far as making power. Now, some of them are worse than others. I'm about to show you one here, this 5.7. I don't know if this will actually be able to do any good, but this 5.7, which is Justin's, you can see where I've cleaned up those intake ports quite a bit. That there's a finished product. You can really see all the way in there. Hopefully you can. But I don't know if I can do this without blinding myself. Jesus. Maybe that makes sense. Good Lord, I'm blinding myself. Anyway, some of the casting, man, see, it really shows up like it's a big shadow and it's not in real life. It's so weird. Anyway, from the machine marks, because it's on camera, it looks like it's picking up everything, and they're actually really clean. Anyway, long story short, this manifold had a ton of casting flash in it. On a naturally aspirated truck, I'd say it was probably robbing it of about somewhere between 12 and 15 horsepower. So really, what's the whole point of it? Well, the idea is, again, to just try to blueprint those runners. You want them to be as clean as possible with no intrusions and no casting flash in those runners. And I get guys asking me, well, you know, what does it cost to do this kind of stuff? Well, to be honest with you, it costs quite a bit of money. I don't really like quoting prices on a live show. If you want any more info, just hit me up with a direct message on Instagram. But suffice it to say, it isn't cheap. The issue that I have is, well, it's the time, and especially on the 6.4 manifolds, because the throat on that 6.4 manifold is a nightmare to try to get right. Not to mention the fact that you've got differences in the thickness of the material that you have to work with just in general. So, you know, each casting is a little bit different. Each assembly is a little bit different. And so, you know, there's a certain amount I can open them up without trying to go back in and backfill them with epoxy. That's more of an all-out race effort, and most cars really don't benefit too much from that realistically. Opening up that area, contouring and reshaping that area along with some runner work, typically it'll net you, you know, depending on the shape of the intake manifold, around 10 horsepower, 12 to 13, maybe 15 pound-feet of torque. Again, depending on the condition of the manifold, and the power will typically carry out a little bit farther and the torque comes in a little bit earlier. It's also going to be a little bit snappier just in terms of high load, low RPM scenarios too. Something else that I've noticed with them. But let me get in here and say hello to everybody that I haven't said hello with yet. Sherrod's saying, what is going on, brother? And then he's, oh, here we go. Long time coming from one and only. I think we got that. Smoking 05. Howdy, Mr. Mason. Howdy, Smoking 05. Love your vids. First time making it in. Great stuff from Timothy. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Brendan Bramley. I purchased, oh, here we go. Brendan's saying that he's priced out a set of 370 gears for his Charger Scat Pack and want to go for it. Then I read on some of the forums that I won't gain much from it at the track. What do you think? All right, so here's the thing. If you've got, is your Scat Pack a 5.7 or is it a 6.4? For the 5.7, it actually kind of makes sense. Good gear multiplication in that car. You know, it kind of needs it. It's still a heavy car. And, you know, realistically, if you've got an 8-speed car, you might not see as much of a gain. It'll just be a lot more snappy, and first gear will be a little bit less useful, only because you're going to burn through it quicker. I know of a couple of guys that have talked about that 370 for use with 30-inch tall tires at the drag strip. And in that case, it works pretty well on a 392. But you know, there's a lot of guys that are pretty much kicking ass with a 309 gear. So, you know, for me, if you've already got a 309, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go 70 unless you're really looking to go to the drag strip on a tire. In that case, you might pick up something. But, and this is a big part of it, you're going to have to get your transmission tuned for it. A lot of guys have said you don't have to, but the reality is that your predictive shifting is going to go into a freak out on your 1.2 and probably on your 2.3, simply because your predictive shifting thinks that it has to, or thinks it's going to hit its rev limit earlier than it should, and so it'll basically chop throttle and the car will nose over on the shift. So, you know, if you're willing to go through all of that, then you know, give the 370 a shot. I'm a big fan of the 370 for Nag 1 cars. The 3.92 gear can get a little bit, or actually for that car be a 390 for the gate track we're in. But at any rate, that gear can be a little bit buzzy on the street, but it makes the car a lot of fun to drive. So, you know, you take a little bit of that compromise, the performance over the, you know, high speed highway RPM tolerance. If you've got a high tolerance for it, then I say go for it, let it ride. Justin saying beautiful artwork. Thank you. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on those. You know, can't wait for the results. In fact, one of the things, it's difficult to show on these intakes, but it's just the amount of actual intrusion that you get just from where the two pieces come together. That's really where most of the work takes place. And I don't know. I can't. It's one of these things where I won't be able to show you well enough on here. It looks like I've got the flashlight glowing in my crotch over here. But at any rate, yeah, there's quite a bit on that one. In fact, like I say, your intake was probably one of had some of the highest amount of intrusion, for just the amount of material that I took out of it. But it definitely looked good, that's for sure. Let's see. Sean saying, I used a Dremel and some elbow grease with some light sandpaper and tried to fix as much flashing as I could on mine. That's a really good start. If listen, guys, if you're not comfortable getting in there and removing material and contouring some things, stuff like that, trust me, I get it. Getting in there and removing some of the flashing can definitely get you started in the right direction. Now, again, it depends on which intake you have. If you've got a 392 intake, removing flashing in the runners is one thing, but you're going to have to reshape and recontour part of that neck. The neck or throat area, however you want to call it, either way, that area on that intake is just obnoxiously restrictive. And what I have to do is when I go in there and start to remove material, one of the things that I have to keep in mind, again, is the thickness of the material that I'm working with. I don't want to use too hard, too heavy of a hand in there when I get in there and get started. That's why it typically takes me a lot longer to do the 392 intakes, or it doesn't typically, it always does, because I've got to be real mindful of the thickness of the casting of that polymer when I'm getting in there and basically, reshaping and sculpting that area so that I can take advantage of at least the stock throttle body size, much less a larger throttle body. Now, you start getting into the 5.7 intakes, it's a little bit different story. The truck intake is super easy because there's no, it's a top feeder. So because of that, give you guys an idea here. Because it's a top feeder like this is the only section that you've got to worry about. And right now I've got this thing centered and equidistant on the cut that I made for the, for this throat, I guess you could call it here. But that one is actually cut and set up perfectly for this 84 millimeter throttle body. So try to give you guys an idea of what that would look like. You go to open this thing up, and you can see where I've kind of recontoured a little bit on the backside here. This part that's not touched, you don't need to worry about that. But what I did is I just blended that and then contoured it down. God, this thing is like really weird with the way it seems to pick up machine marks, because it does not look like that. That is goofy. It's so weird. This is the first time I've ever shown this work, and it doesn't really look like that. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's picking up on the darker spots like it's a high ridge. Okay, kind of an optical illusion. But anyway, that gives you an idea of how these intakes are done. And so that part of it's easy, but again, the runners on these things can eat up a lot of time. And again, if it makes you a little bit nervous about going in there and removing the material, just get in there with a small stone, Dremel with a rat tail, and just knock down some of the flashing. And if nothing else, it'll help to build your confidence on working on these polymer intakes. The cool thing about working on a polymer intake, just hang out with my new buddy here. The cool thing about working on polymer intake is that they cut easy, and you don't have to have any exotic tools to cut on them. If you get in there with a stone, you can basically play around with it. You're not going to get crazy. I don't recommend, if you're just starting out, don't go get you some cartridge rolls. Guys can make a big mistake, get a 60 grit and end up burning a hole in their intake. The lighter the touch you can have, the better. The way I try to explain it is basically like you're just writing your name. That's more or less the pressure you're going to use with that rat tail. And take your time. Don't get into a hurry. Clean up often, and you'll be set. You'll be good. And in no time, you'll have the confidence to tackle a full-on port job. And you know, there are some tricks to it. There are some things that I do that's a little bit different than what other guys do with these intakes, but I kind of have the luxury of being around this stuff a lot, and I had free access to it dyno. So, yeah, there were quite a few sacrificial intakes along the way, by the way. So, luckily, there weren't that many, but there were a couple. Let's see. Patrick Stevens saying, hi, B. Hi, Patrick. Let's see. Sean saying, I wish Dodge had a little bit better quality control on that part. Man, you and me both. Oh, damn. One and only SB. Shit, thank you very much. Say had to up it. Sorry I missed one or two. Sorry, Professor, for Revlon and a beer or 6 Diet Cokes. All the manifold work. Nah, thank you very much. Shit, I don't have a beer, but I got my tea with me. Cheers, brother. Damn, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Yeah, if you get a chance, check out the track chat video. That was actually a lot of fun for me. Fucking mosquito. Here they come again, man. Little bastards from anyway. Had a lot of fun doing that video, and you know, able to do is a kind of a video full of ride-alongs. And while the car was cooling off, it's just kind of me hanging out with you and just chatting it up about stuff. But thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate that. Again, thank you. Let's see. Oh man, I missed a couple here. Brendan saying, he asked, what are my thoughts on installing Demon Springs on the Scat Pack? He says he's got a 6.4. Thanks again, one and only, man. I really do appreciate that, by the way. Some guys are getting some decent results out of them, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to be the end-all, be-all for that car. I think at that power level, you know, to be honest with you, I had the best ETs in sport mode with my SRT. Running it in street didn't really help a whole lot, and the car seemed to hook just fine. Those springs are really necessary if you're going to be running on a track that is, hey buddy, a track that is not very well prepped, or you know, if you decide to hit it with a power adder like nitrous or something like that. But I don't know that I would run out and just fetch a set right now. I have toyed around with the idea of putting a set of those springs on the Hellcat, but the thing's hooking up great, and there's no reason to spend the money or for me to bleed all over the suspension of that thing, getting a set of springs put in that really isn't going to help me do anything really any differently with the car that I'm doing now. So, yeah, I would probably advise against it, only because I don't see a performance enhancement there for you. Kenny's saying, brother, short header or long header to a 6.1. Man, go with a set of long tubes on the 6.1. The cam profile on the 6.1 has a tighter lobe separation angle, and it can actually take advantage of long tube headers. You'll always hear me talk about Cooks. Go with a set of Cooks headers. That's going to be the best value, quality versus cost. And not to mention, if you go with the Cooks and you decide to go with a cam later on, you've definitely got some overhead there to play with. If you choose to go with a set of shorties, the BBKs do absolutely work. However, you may run into some clearance issues, so just be aware of that before you get rolling with it. So, yeah, Cooks are going to be a little bit of a headache to install, but realistically, for the quality of the product that you're getting and for the performance potential that you'll have if you decide to end up, you know, upping the game up just a little bit later on down the line, you'll already have an exhaust system that is capable of managing that for you. Justin saying, so with my cam intake and precision turbo and going to the other oil you told me to use, how much do you feel I'll pick up? Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't think you're going to be too far outside of the 600 horsepower to the rear wheels range. With, you know, you've got a 410 gear, but you've got a taller tire because it's a truck. The 410 is going to hurt you a little bit in terms of showing a number at the rear wheels. But I think that the turbo that you have with the cam that we were talking about, with this intake basically freeing up looked like about 1 millimeter all the way around the port. Minimum is what I was pulling out of that intake. As far as restrictions, efficiency gains, things like that, you should be close to that 600 horse mark. I mean, you're on E85, so you can kind of dial it up a little bit. Really, the only limitation at this point is going to be just how much do you want to trust that stock bottom end. And you know, if you got access to another bottom end, you can pull the pistons out and at least, you know, open up your ring gap a little bit. Have it on standby. But I mean, the power number that you want to go with, that turbo you have will absolutely cover. Again, it's just going to be more down to what will the stock block take. I've seen Whipple 5.7s putting down 575. Yours should more than cover that with that cam. And then Justin says, and how much on 14 pounds at E85? 5.7, 14 pounds on E85. Man, you might be 660, 670. It's kind of hard to say. Hang on a second. Boy needs to go outside. Hang on. What you got, baby boy? Come on, let's go. Come on, go harass your mom. There you go. All right. So, but again, it's going to be on up there. I mean, I put it like this: there's not going to be another truck around that is going to be close to it in terms of performance, unless they have really spooled up that full turbo, LS truck is going to be what it's going to take in the truck world to mess with that truck. Let's see. Smokin05 is asking, have I worked on any Gen 3 Hemi carburetor setups? I've seen dual quad intake manifold that looks pretty badass. No, I haven't personally worked on any, but I have seen them. And the reality is it's really there more for show and tell. It's not that amazing of a piece of performance equipment, but it works well enough. And with a couple of small Holley, a perfect one would be like a Demon 650. Down jetted would be a good, double combination on something like that. At least that's what was on, I think it was a 6.4 with that manifold on it. But don't have a lot of experience with them. It's really killer for show and tell. But I don't know of anybody who's really taken one all that seriously. It's not to say it doesn't have the potential to be awesome. I just don't know of anybody who's really gone bananas with it yet. Let's see. Smokin05 says it would be cool for a street rod. Yes, it would. In fact, the last street rod I saw with a Gen 3 Hemi had the stock. It was a 6.4 in a 32 Ford, of all things. Would have loved to take that thing for a spin with a turbo 400. James B is asking, what can I expect to gain on a 5.7 2016 Charger with long tubes, cold air, and custom dyno tune? Well, I can tell you that most of them, the long tubes really aren't going to do a whole lot for you on that 2016, mainly because you've got a cam that is a little bit wider lobe separation than what they had on like the 6.1 or the earlier 5.7s, but it'll still help it a little bit. But it'll help it more because the stock manifolds on a 5.7 are garbage. So, most of them will put down like 320, 330 to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno. With a tune, long tubes, larger throttle body, you get it up to about 350-ish, pick up about 20 horsepower, 25 horsepower. Depending on your intake manifold, add in a ported intake manifold, you might pick up another 10. And torque all the way across the board on that with ported intake and a larger throttle body. So those engines actually respond very well, mainly because they're kind of detuned from the factory, where the 392, it's not maxed out. In fact, there's a little bit of room to grow with that 392 in the tune, but when it comes to long tubes, things like that, I mean, it already comes with really good manifolds, so it's really tough to beat the stock stuff on a 392, but again, the 5.7, completely different story. Let's see. SRT Crazy saying, hey, Ray, how are you this evening? Doing well. Hope you're doing the same. It says, my son asked if you were on tonight, so I checked my feed, and here you are. Hey, I like it. Thanks for checking in. Ethan is saying, is it true that the current outgoing 5.7 Hemis are killing the 6.1 SRTs as far as straight line performance? Debatable, but yeah. Also, 5.0 owner here with nothing but love for the Mopar since I did used to own a 392. And, you know, as a recovering Ford guy, I'm right there with you. I love Fords. In fact, you know, in my last live video, you know, I was kind of fanboying over a Mustang that was out there. It's an 8-second capable Mustang that was, you know, I think it ran one high 8 and middle, you know, mid 9s. Pretty nasty little street setup. So yeah, no, they're so getting to the question, the 5.7, yeah, it's you know, the 5.7 is a bit underrated, and when you take the 5.7 with an 8-speed, put that up against a 6.1 with a nag 1, it's going to be fairly close. But the 6.1 will typically start pulling it on the big end of the track. So what guys typically will say, though, is that the 5.7 feels punchier. And a lot of that has to do with the fact you just have, you know, not to mention 3 extra gears, but, you know, a first gear that is significantly more aggressive than that nag 1. So it's just going to feel like it's got a whole lot more, mainly because it's just got a transmission that can, you know, apply that torque. CJ Colvin saying, hey, what's up? Hey, man, Madsen, what's up? What's up, brother? One and only SB saying, B-Mix, yes, sir, says, I know you have more respect for the 5.7 than most. I do. I love him, actually. I actually like him as well. The reason I brought it up, if you had not been to Bad Hemi 300's channel, you may want to check it out. I think I've seen his. Is he the one with the 426 Chrysler 300? I can't remember. There is one. I mean, my mom's got a Heritage Edition 300, so yeah, it kind of runs in the family. I will say this: the 300 is a car that I freaking love, and it drives me nuts that we don't have an SRT, a modern SRT version of it, you know, here in the States. But I will check that out though, because I love 300s, and you know, which it should come as no surprise. I mean, you know, it's kind of just that, you know, big butch ass gangster ass Mopar that it is. So yeah, no, I love the 300s. In fact, I was looking for a black 300, a black SRT 300 for about a month, and I was really wanting to find one. It wasn't going to be a major build, but it was going to be a kind of a massaged 6.1, not really overpowered, but there might have been a little bit of nitrous in the plans for that car, but did never find a clean one. I had a neighbor that had one that I was in love with. Racer X saying, what's going on, brother? What's up, Racer X? What's kicking, brother? Ruben Garcia saying, what's happening, B, man? What's happening, Ruben? You coming to Spring Fest in Southern California? Man, I wish I could. With my schedule being what it is right now, I'll be lucky to get out of Houston before then. But if I get some spare time, I would love to hop a plane and come check that out. I miss California. Used to live in NorCal. Racer X saying, one and only SB coming through. Heck yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, I need to check out Bad Hemi 300's channel too, because if it's the same one I'm thinking of, that's a badass 300. Uncle Stinkford in the house saying, thought I was hallucinating on wild berries for a second. What's with this hat business? Be confused the hell out of me. Yeah, no. Well, you know, I'm trying to, you know, keep the glare from knocking anybody down over there. So, but yeah, it's a little bit on the chilly side here in the lounge. Had the heater on earlier, but it's not working as well as it should. One and only SB saying, no worry, B. You're seriously one of the very few guys that some of us can come to and enjoy the type of content you put out every time. Racer X too. But not a lot for sure. Man, you know, I'll tell you something. I'm glad you say that, man. It means a lot to me that you say that, and the support you've given, it means the world to me. It really does. And you know, the whole premise of this channel was, you know, it was just to hang out and you know, chat it up and have fun. You know, I don't try to you know, overplay anything. Try to give the best advice that I can, and really cut through some of the nonsense and bring you guys content that, you know, is practical in use, so that, you know, it might save you some money, you know, on mods that you might not need, or it might steer you in the right direction in terms of attaining a goal that you might be shooting for. So, and sometimes I can be the voice of reason. You know, I'm one of those guys where I'm really good at doling out advice. I'm just now getting good at taking my own advice. So, I don't know. Bear with me. Let's see. By the way, the weather here in Texas has been nuts. So we've had freezing temperatures, then it's 70 degrees, then it's 50 degrees. Then it might be warmer, it might be freezing again. And the trees here think it's spring. And I got these big ass oak trees that are exploding pollen all over everything. And so there for a while, you know, I was talking like this and I was all jacked up because I had all this, you know, tree goop in my throat, and it was a treat. So at any rate, let's see. Isabel saying hello there. Hello, Isabel. Let's see. Racer X, B, who you got? Amber's 2019 Scat or Excessive in black key mode from a 60 roll? Okay, well, I can tell you this. When Riley and I raced, and keep in mind, Riley's Hellcat was stock, we went back to back, his black key against my SRT. And I spun on the first hit, but his Hellcat went 1140 at, I can't remember what the speed was, like 119 miles an hour. Maybe it was a little bit quick. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, around 119 miles an hour. When we raced the second time, I think he went 1160 at like 116 miles an hour. And I went an 11, what the hell did I run? Like an 1141. So, at any rate, it'll be a close race. That is for sure. But it's a fun race. Racer X saying, it's going to happen. Uncle Seekford's checking in with @RacerX. How's the wifey warming up to the new Scatty? You should put the 275s on it. Yeah, for sure. You know, once, you know, and here's the thing. Once that car is on a drag radial, it will take on a completely different persona. I love 392 Scatties, SRTs, shakers, whatever flavor is in front of me. That car on a drag radial is so much fun to drive, so well balanced, and such a just treat to take out and play with. So, yeah, y'all are going to have a ton of fun with that one. Jay Palma checking in saying, what a good peeps. I like it. What's good, Jay? Let's see. Racer X saying she loves it. No tires yet. It's coming. The J Palmer saying loved his 15300S. Yeah, man. I'd love to find one. That's for sure. Speed Maniac. What up, brother B? What up? Got the horns out. You going to Texas 2K? Yes, I will be floating around Texas 2K for sure. Looking forward to it too. Speed Freak 93 saying, Brian, I'm at work driving my 2013 Charger Police package. Cool. Believe it has a 5.7. It does. Has a lot of torque. What horsepower could it be? It will be a 370 horse 5.7 in that thing. I drive it like a race car all night long, man. And I tell you what, oh yeah, I got the horns. Love it. Yeah, and if you run it hard, it'll be great. Letting those things idle is usually what kills them. But no, that's rated at 370, but the reality is it's closer to 400. That's kind of the going rate, market horsepower value, so to speak, if you will, for the 5.7s. The trucks are rated at 400 and the cars are rated at 370, but when you put them on the dyno, they have a funny habit of putting down the same power. In fact, the cars, because they have a little bit lighter wheel and tire package, can sometimes put down more. So it kind of leads you to believe that the 5.7 is a little bit underrated for reasons. I don't know why, but love me some 5.7. You know, both of them, you know, my work truck's got the 5.7 in it, and I am under strict orders that I cannot put a tune or nitrous on it. Nobody said anything about forced induction, though. I guess I would still have to put a tune on it. I'm going to find a loophole in there somewhere. But no, you are, no, you're going to be having a lot of fun with that car for a long time. Donald Powers, you'll be live again. Enjoy the ride along, Professor. Absolutely. So I tell you what, that was a lot of fun. I did back-to-back ride-alongs. I did one standalone ride-along, and then I did basically the rest of the night was just a live show. And that, again, that was a lot of fun. And the car's doing great. And again, that live show DA, again, the lowest DA, I'll just call it, wasn't negative anything. It was plus 350. And the grains, though, so it was crazy humid, and we were working with track prep that was not good. We had basically, that track had been rained out. So, track prep wasn't that great. Grains were crazy. DA was good, though, and she was just consistent 1060s all night. So we got as quick as a 1061 at 130, but if I tried to launch it any harder, it would spin, and couldn't really feather it out of the hole either. It was just it was all I could do to get her to hook. But when she hooked, she was on a roll. But again, high grains, it displaces oxygen, and we just, wasn't really living up to the potential. But, there's at least another 1/10 and a half probably in the car if the grains weren't that bad. As a matter of fact, if you, at some point in that live show, there's a guy with a heads cam Grand Sport that you'll hear he and I chatting in the background, and his car was down a couple of tenths, and I think he was having a little bit of a crisis because you kind of get the impression he was worried that something was wrong with his car, and I had let him know, no, trust me, that my car was a little bit on the slow side as well. Well, it didn't slow, but you know what I mean. SRT Crazy was planning on going to Springfest, but won't be now since the clown party law was in effect as of the first of the year because the Challenger is way too loud and don't deal with the fools. Yeah, I'm surprised that would probably be a situation where you'd have a lot of grief, to say the least. Racetrack saying, B, we have some of the best subs on YouTube. I disagree. We have the best subs on YouTube, brother. These guys are truly great. Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. We've got the absolute best subs, and, like I said, I'll go to war with any one of you guys. So I do appreciate that. Let's see. Delio saying, what's up, B? What's up, man? David Barlow saying, hi from Canada. Wow. Howdy from Texas. Uncle Siegfried is saying, coming up to upstate New York, B, it's an incredibly hot 10 degrees right now. Yeah, I already went through that in Chicago when it was a balmy 4 degrees with like a negative, I don't know, who cares, wind chill factor. So yeah, we went to a Blackhawks game, and we were running back. It was, I don't know how long it was. Every time I tell the story, it's a longer distance. So let's just say we had to get back to our bus to get out of there, and it was a nightmare. And it's funny too, because I got back to the bus. I'm going, what the hell, man? I'm out of breath. This is stupid. And anyway, no. Listen, if it gets down around 40, I mean, it's coming up on freezing at that point. I might as well stay home. Dealer's saying, have you seen any red eyes at the track? And if so, what have been the results? Absolutely. Go check out multiple Mopars. And go check out Racer X. You'll get a fantastic shot of a red eye going down the drag strip. Check out his channel. He's got some footage of multiple Mopars red eye. And honestly, if multiple Mopars wouldn't have been being kind to me and giving me the hit, I think is what he did. He'll say he was asleep at the light, but I think he's a little bit more crafty than that. But no, his red eye is the national record holder for full weight, wide body red eye on a tire. And his car has run a best of a 1037 or a 1039, somewhere in there at just a tick over, I think 130, like 131, 132, something like that. My car in the same conditions will run, and this is my car on the drag pack. Keep in mind, his car is a 309 gear car. My car is a 262 gear car, but my car is a lot lighter than his because his is, he's running the stock wheels on a wide body red eye, but they are very similar. His car is probably, I would say, on average about a 1/10 quicker and about a mile an hour or two faster than mine consistently. if we're in the exact same conditions. If not, maybe a tick quicker still, just depending on how well his car hooks up. Because you got to remember, he's on the wide body wheels on a on a drag radial, whereas I'm technically on a drag radial, but it's an ET Street R. So again, my car's got a lot of advantages that his doesn't, but they're still fairly close. But if you're a betting man, you'd want to give the nod to that red eye. Let's see. One and only SB Deliov seeing 3 2-ran mid-10s, 1055 and 1058, and 1066 for the third one. Yeah, so they're quick. I mean, they're no joke. And for anybody that hasn't had a chance to check out either Multiple Mopar's channel or well, that's the only one I can think of who's actively really running their car at the drag strip. Go check it out because, yeah, I mean, they're legit mid-10-second cars, no doubt about that. Nathan's saying no one shows the 6.1 any love. I'm always showing the 6.1 love. If it weren't for the 6.1, we wouldn't have the Hellcat. Let's see. Yeah, one and only saying, yeah, he was thinking the same thing I was about the 1039 or 1037. Justin saying, can't wait to get my truck on Revlon's level. It would be nice to run with a Hellcat. That's my goal. You know, I don't think you're going to be too far off. Now, the big issue you're going to have is weight. You got to keep in mind that the way my car sits now, she's light. I mean, real light. 40. It was 4240 is what she weighed without me in it. So, you've got about 1,000 pounds more weight to drag around. So, it'll be tough. But E85 turbo, ported intake. It's going to be scooting, man. I mean, like I was saying, I think you've got a great shot. I mean, you're going to be deep in the 11s with that truck, no doubt about that. Let's see. Julio's saying, oh, he's hollering back out at one and only, saying, thank you, brother. Vince is in the house. Saying, hey, B, really like the 1320. I do too. And have the itch for something new. At the price point around $50,000, what are your thoughts? Would it be more the same with my SRT in regards to 1320 or Hellcat time? Well, look, let's be honest. If you've got 50 grand that is 50 grand is your budget, it's the 1320 is a great car. You get some cool doodads with it. It's touted as being the naturally aspirated demon, and in all respects, it is. The only thing is that at that price point, you're into used Hellcat territory. In fact, you're deep into used Hellcat territory. Now, that being said, is it a good idea to buy a used Hellcat? Well, that's the whole caveat emptor type thing working for you. I got real lucky with Revlon, and so far I've remained to be lucky, but others haven't been so lucky with their used hot rod purchases. If you find a very low mileage, very clean, very well loved, maintained, and cared for Hellcat, I would say go with the Hellcat, only because the Hellcat will always be a Hellcat. That being said, and the Hellcat's also a household name. The 1320 is a bit more of a niche product. All of that being said, for me, the 1320 just wasn't out when I had actually stumbled upon Revlon. And so had I not stumbled across Revlon, I would have a really hard time trading my SRT for a 1320, mainly because I would be kind of trading across the table. If you are, let's say you've got an SRT with a bunch of miles on it and you're thinking about modding it, but you don't know if it's going to be, really worth it, and you're in a spot where you can afford to trade it in on a 1320 and you like the naturally aspirated stuff, 1320 would be, it is attractive only if you're going to try to, set a goal, or you want a car that you can basically have fun with on the street, have fun with on the drag strip, and it's not really ever going to be a daily driver. It's going to be like a second or a third car for the family, and it's something that you guys are going to do together. And, in that respect, the 1320 is a really good platform because it's going to be very durable, and that's the main thing that you get with the 1320 is an extremely durable package. So I hope that I have not thoroughly confused you with that answer. It's tough for me to say. Again, finding a really clean, really well-loved Hellcat is actually very difficult to do. I lucked out. I still can't believe I lucked out, but there are some still out there. Just be careful. Let's see. TrackPack RT is saying 360 DA. Yep. Saying I wish. While sitting at 3,200. Damn. Before any humidity, counting down the days till spring hits. Yeah, no kidding. I bet. What's funny is that 3,200 DA down here basically means that it's about 105 degrees and 100% humidity. Speed Maniac saying, speaking of trucks, my buddy at work has a 5.7 Ram, and I drove it, and I really think my 2015 5.0 F-150 feels like it has a little bit more pep versus his. I hate to say it. Well, the 15 5.0 F-150 is no slouch, man. It's a quick truck. You know, with the cams that are in that, the truck 5.0, they're actually pretty snappy and pretty torquey. Your buddy's probably got a... his truck probably has 323 gears in it, which from a dig, they're a little bit lackluster. If it had 392 gears in it, your opinion would probably be a little bit different. My old truck had 392 gears, and that thing was a little monster driving around. I love that truck. It kind of hurt my feelings to have to let it go. One and only SB saying, you messing with my nice city up north? Man, look, all I can say is that I think I need to go back during the spring. Let's see. Richie Rich saying, you and Racer X, real deal. My Scat, no, thank you. My Scat Charger is virgin, other than tires, 180 thermostat, and that thing went 1197. Listen, it's no joke. The 392 cars. Well, it's like Warren's car. I drove Warren's car at the track rental, and stock Scat Pack core on drag radials, and it was, you know, it was solid 1190s all day long, and that's with him driving it and with me driving it. Warren's a good driver too, so you know, we were both able to hop in the car and do a burnout, stage it, and hit that 1190. Plus, it was a lot of fun. Being back behind the wheel of a 392 car, it's like being at home for me, and just the way those things sound going down the drag strip is nice. One and only saying it's beautiful and warm. The definition of, oh yeah, during the spring for sure. Yeah, no, in fact, my wife and I are actually trying to plan a trip this spring, and I am seriously gunning for Chicago. Hayden saying, B Mason, what's good? What's up, man? Thoughts on 11 to 14 Charger RT all-wheel drive? Any longevity issues? None that I know of. Still good to pick one up for a daily or stay away? I haven't heard of any issues. The only potential issue you may have would be fuel economy. The all-wheel drive cars just simply don't get that great of fuel economy. But aside from that, no, they're good cars, and if you live in an area where it gets snowy, it can actually work in your benefit. So, again, no issues that I'm aware of for the 11 to 14s. Depending on the mileage, it has probably already had any lifter issues that it may have taken care of, but that would be the only thing that I would keep my eyes open for. But that's it. I haven't heard of any real issues, and those are kind of I don't know, they're a hit and miss type of a problem. My 14 Ram did have a lifter fail, so just so you know. Justin saying, to hell with the cold, it's nice 74 in the house, heat and AC even work with the hoopty. I like that. I don't do the cold crap. Let's see. Talking about towards the winter. You know, it's funny. I actually really like, I like cold weather, but I don't like, well, who does, right? I mean, you know, it's when there's not even a temperature. I mean, when it's 0 degrees, I mean, there's not even a temperature. It's so cold. But no, I actually had a really good time. I love Chicago. So, Uncle Secret saying, you guys have the best subs because you've got some hardcore Mopar guys in here. I like it. Myself included and a mix of other car fans. All good stuff. Thank you very much. And also, you know, just like, I mean, we started off the conversation for you guys that that are just now getting in. I'm porting some intakes right now. We got Justin's truck intake that I've done some work to. So again, this is what that one looks like. Doing a little show and tell here for you guys. I don't know why the light keeps showing these ports as being all lumpy. It's picking up some of the dark areas like they're ridges. But anyway, that's what it looks like in normal light. I took that fluorescent light and it kind of freaked out. But that'll give you an idea of some of my work on the ports. Can't really see deep down in there. But at any rate, it's a good thing you can't see anything. That's kind of the point. But anyway, that's what, you know, my port work looks like. And then for a 6.4 manifold, I haven't started on the runners yet on this one. Spent most of my time mainly working on the throat, but that's what that throat is going to look like. You can see that. Opening up that throat so that she breathes a little bit better. This is not a full-on race port. This is kind of what I consider my... that's really more what I consider my street port. The full-on race stuff, I end up having to backfill it with epoxy. At least I've had to on one so far, and not a big fan of having to do that. And again, when you really start trying to open those up, you run into issues with just how thick that polymer is. The castings are all a little bit different, so just something you got to take into account when you're messing with that stuff. But just in case y'all were wondering what I've been up to that time of year again. Let's see. Jose Padilla is saying, what do you think of GT Haas on a red eye? It costs 11 grand for exhaust. Yeah, no, I don't think of that. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's a stupid idea. And you know, I'm glad they're making parts, but anybody that spends $11,000 on no. And the stock exhaust system is really good. And you know, if you decided to go, you know, like I said, long tubes or long tubes and no cats and a tune, or a long tubes with high flow cats, yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, I'd never spend that kind of money on an exhaust system. Not unless it's on a freaking fighter jet. One and only SB340, minus 55 is cold, Justin? Come on. Man, I was 2 days out from that minus 55 thing, I think. I was either 2 or 3 days out from that. Yeah, minus 55. That's when you owe temperature. Let's see. Nathan's asking, how much horsepower does the Diablo tuner actually give you on the California 93 tune? So if you're talking about the canned tune, you're not going to be picking up a ton. And in fact, if Diablo is still doing the thing where they kill all torque management in the tune, you can actually be hurting the vehicle long term. There's ways you can pick up more power and have it be a safer tune than to go with a canned anybody tune. And the way you do that is a custom dyno tune that's where the car is on an actual loaded dyno. So I am one to say stay away from that. Find you a reputable tuner and go through the steps to get an actual dyno tune on your vehicle. Let's see. Lawrence is asking, what do you think of changing the rear cradle bushings and differential bushings to energy suspension? I've heard of that. There's BMR. BMR, I think, had some inserts, and I think Energy actually had standalone bushings. I think it might be actually a really good idea. That diff actually moves around in there a lot. It's why I've got a diff brace on my car, but there's going to be a significant cost involved with that, mainly because you do have to drop the cradle to do those. But you know, if you're dropping the cradle anyway, you know, you might want to just go ahead and put a set of lower trailing arms on the car, or do a full spawn setup on the car. Might do well, except the spawn camber. Let's see, the spawn camber bars actually hit the body part of the actual structure on my white car. Those ended up coming off the car. But trailing arms can, along with those bushings and a diff brace for that matter, can help kind of shore everything up. My car doesn't have that, mainly because when I go to the drag strip, I've got a set of tires on it that are very forgiving. And if they spin, they just kind of spin. I don't get any wheel hop out of them. But if you are playing around on the street and you're running a set of drag radials on your 20s, then you could potentially get into some wheel hop. Let's see. One and only SB340 is saying, he's chatting at the Speed Maniac saying it kind of goes back and forth with those two. Speaking of the F-150, did you get the 2 recalls and the big transmission problem they have had lately? Belt tensioner is sparking. Well, haven't heard. Wow. Yes, please respond. I have not heard of that. DR440 saying, hello all, hope all is well. Hope all is well with you, DR. Ethan Hack saying, what are your thoughts on the possible replacement of the Challenger? I mean, hell, how long do you have? Well, so far as we've been told, it's going to be a revised LX platform, a little bit lighter, but aside from that, look to have basically more of the same in terms of engine combinations. And, the power is going to come from a weight loss. So, that's pretty much where I am with, the latest and greatest from Mopar that is supposed to be coming to us sometime around 2022. My understanding is that the agreement has been extended with Daimler on that LX platform. So, no sense in trying to fix something that's not broken. And the move to the Giulia or to the more realistic Ghibli platform, looks like that is probably not going to be the case because of cost to develop. They've already got the LX platform. They've already got the engineering money spent. Revising that platform, pulling some weight out of it's going to be a whole lot easier than trying to put something together that will work on a platform that's pre-existing and make the existing engines work in those platforms. Let's see. Sam is saying, man, a diesel with 373 is no slouch. A gas truck almost needs 392s to get out of its own way. I would agree with that. But a diesel with 410s is even better. One and only is saying, starting some fires. Also, the block heaters are sparking and have caused 11 fires. Damn. And they are on recall. The auto transmissions are having troubles like they're like the manual transmission, so you just have to watch it. Man, I tell you something. I don't understand. Also, the Mustangs have been having problems, or at least I've heard of some potential issues with that 10-speed automatic in the Mustangs. I don't know how you can screw that up. The ZL1 with the 10-speed automatic, I have not heard of any issues with that setup, and you would think that it would be the same transmission, but I don't know if Ford bean counters crashed that party and ended up pulling some of the better parts out of that transmission in an effort to save cost. Hope isn't the case, but I mean, if it waddles and quacks, it's probably not a platypus. So I don't know. I hate to see that. I had some high hopes for those. It bums me out that they're breaking. Richard Rich is asking, what other mods would you do to a 392? Easy on the pocketbook. I'm 65, love the car, but waiting to see what Dodge does for 2020. Man, I got to tell you something. You start getting into mods on the 392, you've got to be careful because you don't want to just try to throw money at it to stay involved in the car. That said, I do like ported intakes and a Fastman 84 millimeter throttle body. As a matter of fact, that 6.4 that I was showing you guys just a minute ago, that port that I put on that intake is designed to work specifically with that Fastman 84 millimeter throttle body. It'll work just fine with a stocker, but it's the port that I put together for that manifold is for a Fastman, and so that alone is a pretty fun modification. You will probably you'll probably have a pretty good docket of 4-letter words getting the connector off of the SRV actuator. Just make sure you get it all the manifold bolted off in sequence, reverse torque sequence, pull it forward, and then it'll give you a little bit more room to get to that connector. Don't try to get the connector off when it's still on still bolted on the car. you'll come out and you'll be all nubbed up. Just take my word for it. I've taken on and put on, taken off and put on a lot of those intakes, and that's how that works. So, at least on the cars anyway. But that's something you can do, and you don't necessarily need to get a tune for it. Tuning the car is good. Excuse me. If you've got the cats on the car, go ahead and leave the cats on it, and put a drag radial on the back of it, stock size, or if you got a scat pack, go with the 275 45s, stock size for the Hellcat and the SRTs, and just get out there and have fun with it. That's what I would do. That probably would be my extent. If you're taking a hold and see approach, that's as far as I would take that car. And by the way, it'll be a freaking riot when you do that too. DR440, opinions of pros and cons for a 5.7 Hemi retrofit swap. So let's talk about that. One of my favorite swaps has been, it was TTS. It's a shop here in Houston that did a D100, a 62 Dodge D100. And if he's ever watching any of my videos, he knows that there is a standing offer to, if I had to buy any vehicle, if I were to just go nuts, it would have been that 62 D100. I fell in love with that truck. I had so much fun driving that truck and data logging it, to the point where it's the only vehicle that was ever at the shop where I was actually sad that it left. It's the only one. And that car, or that truck, was a 6.1 NAG1 swap. And excuse me, that was probably my favorite. I like the NAG1 mainly because it's a little bit smaller in total size, a little bit less complicated. If I were to do a 5.7, it would probably would be a NAG1 type of a setup, with a set of 373s or 390 gears, something like that. That's just kind of my preference. And like I say, they put it together, and they used the full harness, and it worked like a charm. OBD2 worked great. The truck was, I think last I knew of it, it was going to upholstery, and whoever has that truck, I'm so freaking jealous of you. But as far as pros, it's a Hemi, and if you're putting it, if you're putting together something with it that's got a Mopar nameplate, you're going to want to go that route. They're plentiful. A lot of people are real excited about 5.7, or rather the LS stuff, but there's a lot of Hemis out there too, and they're not that much more expensive than an LS. I love the look of them underneath the hood of an old Mopar. So, Mopar, AMX, whatever the case might be, definitely benefit from it. The only downside is, that they're not as well supported in the aftermarket. But if you're putting it into like an E-body or a B-body, maybe even to the trucks, there's quite a bit of resources out there. So to help you out, I don't really see a downside. I mean, you can put carbureted manifolds on them if you'd like. You can dress them up just fine as well. So, finding one that's in good shape could be a bit of a challenge. And, if you've got the engine out already, probably a good idea to, put a different set of lifters in it just to be on the safe side. But, you can pick up an LS anything, and it can be a bombed out piece of crap. So, take it for what it's worth. I mean, anytime you're swapping these things out, you're probably going to be picking them up in a junkyard anyway. So, be careful with that. But I don't really see a downside to them. No downside that you wouldn't normally run across if you're doing any kind of an engine swap. Let's see. One and only hollering out at Hayden said, I have not gotten any more than 3 to 4 11 to 14s in my shop. Strong cars. Good deal to hear that, man. I love those cars. Justin saying, you should have seen the before pictures on that manifold of his for his truck. Yeah, that manifold was in She's a little bit beat up, but that's something that you'll see with these polymer intakes. One of the problems is that you just get a lot of just casting flash that gets in there. It's because you have multiple pieces going together, and you get this, just stuff squirts into seal, in between on the seams and stuff like that. Definitely, removing that helps. And then, of course, getting everything shaped properly and cleaned up, and, it can make a big difference. And for his was significant. I mean, there's a lot more casting. Once I got in there and started working on it, it's going, man, I didn't realize, there was so much casting flash in here. The good thing is that it cleaned up real pretty. So it didn't really fight me. Again, I was telling him, Justin, I said, I had one port that was fighting me in particular. There's usually one or two that'll fight you on one of these, just in terms of the shape, getting the shape just right, with the way that the pieces are coming together. But everything else worked out great, and it's a great looking intake. I like it. Can't wait to get it on his truck, or for him to get it on his truck. J Palm is saying, I met Gene Winfield at Detroit Autorama over the weekend. Legendary. Very cool. That's awesome, man. Haven't heard that name in forever. Hey, show me Mopar. Got the devils up. Saying, sitting in the back of class taking notes. I like it. Wind chill -15 in St. Louis. Good Lord. Pennzoil Ultra Platinum in the scat for 3 months in garage. 1,000 of just weekend and hard track time. Change it probably? Let's see. It's been in there for 3 months. Got 1,000 miles on it. I would probably say yes, but then again, I'm not really the good guy to ask about oil changes, because I'll change it just basically because the day ended in Y. I'm kind of a diva when it comes to oil changes with my vehicles, but yeah, if it's been sitting for that long, probably a good idea. If you've had any, temperature fluctuations down here, the thing is that we get a lot of condensation down here, and one day it's 40 degrees, the next day it's 80, and then the next day it's 50. Well, problem with that is that you do get condensation. That can be a bit of a problem. So for us down here, I'd probably change it. So I would say, yeah, go ahead and factor that in on the spring cleaning, the spring fling there for that car. Let's see, one and only SB340 laughed my ass off about the exhaust system for 11 G's for red eye. Insane, huh, man? I mean, the nerve of a company to ask you for that kind of money for an exhaust system. That just, it doesn't even make sense. Like, there's nothing about an exhaust system that could possibly make it that expensive. I mean, what is it, all made out of titanium? Titanium's not even all that expensive anymore. I mean, what is it made of? What coatings does it have? What magic does this exhaust system endow your vehicle with? I don't get it. It just, it's dumb. I don't know. It's just silly. Richard saying they polish it shiny GT House, so when it's on the lift, it looks good. Yeah, no kidding. Point and laugh. Jose saying, it is. I called him that for when they said, I was like, no way. I think I'm missing something. Let's see. Oh yeah, with that exhaust. Yeah. One and only SB's. Hayden saying, thanks to one and only. Yeah, Jose, about that. Yeah. No, 11,000. I don't think so. I'm right there with you, Jose. Sam saying, man, delete what needs to be deleted and replace with stainless tubing and glass packs and save about 10 G's on the Hellcat. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you've got a Hellcat, you already basically have that. If you guys aren't familiar with what the Hellcat exhaust looks like, or at least the older Hellcat exhaust, it's a pipe about this long, about that big around. It's about that big around, and it's got a 2 3/4 inch pipe going right through the middle of it. So yeah, it's about as close to glass pack without having, or cherry bomb without having the sticker on it. One and only saying, great idea. They were great cars. Really, I hope you can find one in nice shape. Man, I'd love to. I'd love to. Nathan is asking, have you ever heard of the 5-speeds leaking trans fluid? No, I haven't. As a matter of fact, the only time I've heard of them leaking fluid is if they're overfilled. But that's any automatic transmission. They'll just puke out the vent. But no, I haven't heard of any of them leaking, like seals going bad or something like that. Definitely haven't heard of that. Justin's asking, what do you think about triangulating the upper rear control arms and doing the aftermarket lowers and doing away with drag link? Maybe some coilovers? Yeah, maybe. My only issue with that is I don't know how much of an advantage you would gain over the existing 4-link setup. If you've already got the control arms on that 4-link, I think you're going to be in good shape. But, you know, as far as anything else, I'm not really super familiar with it. I know that some guys have had, you know, some decent luck with that, but I don't know of anybody that is actively using it on the drag strip. So all the trucks I know of are still running out there with the stock 4-link. And as far as coilovers, and coilovers are always a good idea, but they're also kind of pricey. So I say hold what you got unless you can, you know, find like a set of adjustable shocks for the truck. That might help you out a little bit. You know, soften the rears up just a tad, and just have something that'll let that front end come up so you get some good weight transfer with that pickup truck. Uncle Sinkford saying, I'm just going to say it. Stop messing with the exhaust. I've been saying it, brother, for a while. The exhaust of my 2018 Scat Pack Charger is simply beautiful sounding. The car sounds awesome and does not need an aftermarket exhaust. Man, I'll tell you something. Proof's on the track, brother. And stock exhaust is really hard to beat. I mean, really hard to beat on the drag strip. So take that for what it's worth. I think y'all know where I'm going with that. Muscle Boy 01, is 274 comp cam a good move for a 5.7? No, it's not. I will say this, though. In the 274's defense, I have driven one car with 5.7 car with a comp 274. The power curve on that car on the dyno looked like it looked a lot like a car with a centrifugal supercharger, where it made torque and where it made peak power. That said, and I'm sitting here saying no, that said, that car actually pulled nice and strong on the big end. The problem with it, if you want to call it a problem, is that it just didn't have any power down low. But that, as far as 5.7's going, it didn't make that much more on the big end than a stock cam car. But that said, that car was actually a lot of fun. And when it came on, it was making torque in the upper RPM range. So when it shifted, it had a nice firm shift to it, as opposed to, you know, nosing over a little bit. But that being said, for it, unless you're going to plan to hit it with nitrous, I probably would go with the comp. If you're going to look at it off the shelf, like a comp 268 cam or something like that. Let's see. Oh, one and only is saying, actually, I know Ford is a little worried. They sent the shop a lookout reminder to check the manual trans and are now having us take an extra peek at the autos. Fluid and case. No kidding. Man, it's never a good thing. You know, they know something's going on with it. And again, God, it just bums me out, man. I hate to hear that. But you know what? They'll get it sorted out. They're Ford. I think that, you know, again, you know, we're looking at this situation where I think they just took what was already a really good design and dummied it down. Because on paper, technically, 10-speed has a higher torque capacity than the HP70. But so far, if this is going to be like a widespread issue, that may not be the case. Go74 is saying there is a Hellcat at my dealership going for $45,000. I tell you what, I mean, I've seen them hovering around 45. I've seen them at 41. I've seen them at 50. it depends on miles, the Carfax report, all of that kind of good stuff. But there's some really good deals floating around out there on used Hellcats. And if you get one with very low mileage, and again, you find one that's been very well loved, low mileage, the owner just basically had it in his garage, took it out on pretty days, took the significant other out for dinner, car wasn't beat up or anything like that. They're actually a very robust platform. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of the most stout platforms that's available on the market in terms of durability. Power compared to torque holding capacity is actually really good for the HP90 and the Hellcat engine drivetrain as a whole. So yeah, it's especially if it's been on stock tires its whole life. I mean, that drivetrain's never been stressed. So if you can find one and it's in good shape, might be worth a look. Rich saying, got Mickey Thompson SS 305 3520. That's what I had on my white car, as a matter of fact. Ghost 74 saying it's PCP. Certified pre-owned. I bet it's a nice car. Hayden saying, Beachmount Ford F-150 supercharged for $40K. What are your thoughts? And would you get it with the Whipple or the Roush? I think I know which one you're talking about. Is that the Lightning? Is that the one in Georgia? If it's mine, I would go with the Whipple, mainly because you've got more upside on the Whipple. But either way you go, whether it's the Roush package or the Whipple, there's going to be so many safeguards in that tune. I would say that the Whipple probably will make a little bit more reliable power than the Roush, but not that they're having any problems with the Roush, but like I said, Whipple. But I mean, heck, if they're having all these problems with that 10-speed automatic, it might be something you might want to take a wait and see attitude with. Hate to see you spend a bunch of money only to have the transmission explode. Let's see. Richard is saying on 11-inch wheels didn't ride fast enough. Fastman throttle body. What millimeter? 84 millimeter is what you want to go with. Yeah, the 84 millimeter from Fastman is the absolute best throttle body, in my opinion, for those cars. Or for any of the Hemis right now, for that matter. Ghost saying the Hellcat has 18,000 miles. Fair price for the car, for sure. DR440 saying, I think the LS is good, but overdone and boring. Yeah, you can say that again. So one of the problems that I have with the LS just in general, and again, this is coming from a guy that had, an 04 Z06, cam, intake, long tubes, the whole bit. Very familiar with the platform, know what you can get away with, and it's very stout to say the least. But again, I kind of, to parrot the point that you made, they're overdone and they're boring. It's just one more LS swap. And people go, well, yeah, it's LS swap because they work and they're cheap. And my response to that is, yeah, kinda cheap. They're only cheap when you pick one up out of a junkyard for next to nothing and it works. The problem is it doesn't always work out like that. And a lot of guys will say, well, I can take this LS out and blow it up and it'll only cost me X number of dollars to fix. And I'm like, my way of thinking is, well, that's kind of a defeatist attitude to take right off the bat, because I'm not planning on anything that I'm driving to blow up. So, there's a lot of engines that are really cheap to go out and get a replacement for if you blow one of them up. Let's go with something that you're actually going to have a little bit of respect for and that will actually hold a little bit of power. And I mean, not that the LS won't, but I mean, let's be honest. If you're building a race car, sure, go with an LS because they're cheap. But, if you're building something nice, something with some class, go with the Mopar. Jay Pum is saying, CADMAD won the Riddler Award. Oh, that's right. 59 Cadillac Eldorado Nomad Wagon. It was bizarre. Yeah, that's right. That is, I know which one you're talking about. That is badass, by the way. See, Ghost is checking in with Jay. Nathan Chaos is saying, yeah, it's freezing here in St. Louis. Yeah, that's too cold. Ghost 74 is saying, I'm so tired of this crappy, dirty winter roads. I can't keep my Challenger clean for a day. Yeah, it's been raining down here too, man. It is so gross. The work truck actually. So I got this is how weird the weather's been. So last Sunday, not this past Sunday, but Sunday a week ago, it was a Chamber of Commerce day. Absolutely beautiful, about 65 degrees, not a cloud to be found in the sky. The very next day, I was in the middle of in the middle of a job site, visiting one of the GCs, and I'm in the middle of a job site, which means, it's a 12-acre job site. I'm actually on the back right corner of it. Think of it like down here, right? And the exit, I can't go back the way I came. The exit is right here. I had to drive out of that job site in the mud, rooster tailing that thing out of there because it was a freaking hailstorm. So it was gorgeous the day before, hailstorm the next. It's what we're working with right now. The end times are here. Let's see. Jay's checking in with Ghost. Let's see. Ghost saying, been depressed. That's why I'm watching B Mason and cheer me up. Man, I hope I'm cheering you up. Ghost saying, I understand cars, but my wife, she don't make sense at all. Man, listen, girls don't make sense to, or women don't make sense to women either. Let's see. One and only SB340, the most expensive exhaust left the shop. It was a custom job I did for the dude that I'd argue with me nonstop that the factory has no idea how to make and run exhaust. Paid me $8,000. Damn, no kidding. That's painful. And Jay's saying, yeah, I found a sweet touchless car wash for only $7 and it does a better job than 21 down the street. Go 74, man, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Contribution to the cause, saying thanks for keeping real, B Mason, cheer me up, man. Thank you for the contribution. Now well, cheer up, man. It's hopefully things are will turn around for you, man. I really bums me out that you're a little bit on the blue side, but hey, man, let's have some fun. But thank you very much for the contribution. I really do appreciate that a ton. Thank you. Let's see. Lost track here. Sorry, guys. Justin Baker saying, Muscle Boy, he's telling to take a look at Texas Speed and Performance for a cam. They do have some good off-the-shelf cams for the Hemis now. Or give Pikes Performance Tunes a shot for a complete custom cam. And that'll be one of my grinds that you get. So, listen, it's a, when it comes to the cams, it's tough because putting a cam together for a Hemi is not the same as putting the cam together for a wedge head engine like, the LS or a Windsor or, an old school 350. It's actually a lot trickier to put together a cam for the Hellcat. And, there's been a lot of people try and fail when they're putting together a cam package, mainly because, well, let's be honest. I mean, it's got a set of heads that back in the day would have only been found on race cars, and they're trying to make them work for the street. So, for what it's worth, just keep in mind that you've got, there's a very narrow window with camshafts that will work well in terms of making horsepower, but also making torque down low to get these cars out of their own way. Because you got to remember, you're putting a camshaft together in an engine package together for a car that is actually pretty heavy. So you got to work within those confines. Hang on just a second, y'all. Bear with me. Hold on. Scroll this back up. Bear with me. Okay. Oh, Uncle Steve for saying, sorry, man. I'm just saying, I am so tired of seeing videos of people with 392 cars titled Straight Pipe My Scat Pack. My response is moron. Man, I got to tell you something. The problem with straight piping these cars, and again, you know, we're talking about, a lot of guys will mid muffler delete them, which, yeah, okay. I mean, I can kind of see a mid muffler delete, but I mean, they'll take the resos out, they'll take the mids out. And the problem with that is that you've got a car with an X pipe. And a car with an X pipe is going to be raspy just by the nature of the exhaust itself. And I've heard some of these cars and they sound horrible with straight pipes. And, you know, my thought is, why don't you just go 3-inch and put an H pipe in it? I mean, at least that way it would sound good, albeit, again, obnoxiously loud. And some guys go, oh, loud and proud and all this other stuff. Yeah, but when it starts to vibrate body panels, that's not a good sound. So, yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. Sam is saying, man, exhaust systems are overrated. A lot of the stuff you get is $70 for 30-cent parts minus the cats, but who needs cats on a race car, right? Let's see. Mark is saying, hey, Brian, you see that Fast is supposedly working on a Gen 3 Hemi intake manifold. That's what they sent me on Instagram. I have heard of that, but I don't know. I know that Fast they've been developing one for a while, and I think that they're running into the same problems in R&D that some of the other guys have run into, where they're still trying to find the sweet spot on runner length. Again, the problem with the Hemi is that they're constantly wanting to rev to 7,500 RPM, 8,000 RPM with those cylinder heads. And finding an intake that's got the right balance of runner length and runner volume to develop torque down low and still make power up top. That's kind of what that's where the big trade-off is. Plus, now I'll be honest with you, it'll be real difficult to beat a 6.4 manifold or a 5.7 truck or an LX manifold for that matter, in terms of overall performance. In other words, throttle response down low, just that initial tip-in torque that makes the car satisfying to drive around town. That's a tough thing to replicate. And yeah, I get it. If you're building a race car, you're building a race car. A lot of those rules kind of get thrown by the wayside. However, if you're building a street car or you're looking to put something on your, say, charger and, or at least an intake manifold on your charger, it's going to be tough to justify losing the around town punch and throttle response that the stock manifold gives you. So again, it kind of turns into one of these, types of weird situations where I hope they come out with one. We need it as a community, for the guys that are really shooting after a number or a record. It can definitely help, but again, I always default back to the weight because you got to have the torque to drag that car out of the hole. So we'll see. Hopefully it works out. Let's see. Go 74 saying nope. Plum crazy purple. Oh, plum crazy purple for the Hellcat. Oh, I got you. Duh. I don't know why I didn't pick up on that. DR440 saying a local dealer sold a Hellcat for 56 grand. It only took about 4 hours to sell it. It had 2,400 miles on it and was mint. Yeah, it sounds a lot like mine. Mine had like 5,700 miles on it. They actually had it for a while too, which was weird. Sam is telling us, man, he goes, man, I saw a badass Wagoneer had a Hellcat powertrain. Where did I see that? The guy that is, what's his face from Gas Monkey, his buddy, is it that one, the red one? I know I saw something came across my feed, and they had just taken delivery of it, but they didn't have the Hellcat engine in it yet. Maybe it's a different one, but I know he's building one too. Yeah, that would be a riot. One of the spookiest cars or vehicles that I'd ever driven was one of the what the hell is this shit in my mouth? One of the four-door Wranglers with the Hellcat engine in it. That was nuts. Show Me Mopar is saying more track ride-alongs live. Got the arms up. I love it. Seriously, antidepressant. That last one was a blast. I was so jazzed. I watched it sitting in the scat in the heated garage. Wife was cracking up. Thank you, brother. Absolutely. Thank you, man. No, that I've got to do more of those. I had so much fun with the live ride-alongs. And I mean, you guys got to experience it in real time with me. I mean, that was all stuff. I mean, it was just so much more fun to do that one live. So yes, be on the lookout for more videos like that to come up in the future. Like I say, I had a blast making that video. I really did. Siphonic saying, why do Ford guys always try to hang their hats on their engines only being 5 liters? At the end of the day, if both cars racing run the same time, who cares if it's a LS or a 5.0? I don't know. That's a great question. You know, it's an iconic displacement for Ford, so there's kind of that. You know, the 5-liter displacement, I mean, you can do a lot with it with, you know, the technology that they've put into it. But the problem, the way I look at it is it's more power to weight than it is power per displacement, because you really don't want to talk power per displacement when you have engines like, I don't know, the RB26, 2JZ, whatever that engine was that was in the S2000. You don't want to start talking about, you know, or any Japanese sport bike out there, right? You don't really want to start having that conversation. What you really want to do is take a more avionic approach and look at it from the standpoint of, you know, how much horsepower does it make per pound of weight that it weighs? And when you start to look at it from that perspective, it's not all that impressive. In fact, last time I checked shipping weight, the shipping weight for the 392 and for the 5-liter were about the same. So you start to look at it from that point of view, and it kind of takes on a different shade, you know. But I don't know. Yeah, at this stage of the game, really, that argument's also a bit played out. With modern technology, variable cams, and all the rest of the stuff that comes with it, I don't really see there being a need for that argument. And if that argument is going to hold any water, it has to be in a package that has some advantage over its pushrod counterpart, other than displacement, because the 5-liter is physically larger than the 392 and especially the LS. So packaging becomes an issue, or, you know, potentially weight could become an issue. You've got all this weight up top, you know, offsetting the center of balance of the vehicle. So there's a lot more to think about than just power to per cubic inch. And, you know, it's a great engine. Those heads flow amazing, but I don't know. It's an old discussion, argument, a point of reference, however you want to put it. But it's just not, to me, it's just not all that relevant per se anymore, especially with as good as pushrod engines are these days. Go74 asking, hey, B. Mason, what are your thoughts on people putting huge ass rims on their muscle cars? I think it's a bad look. I think it's a bad idea. And I'll also take it a step farther. It's not the safest thing in the world, especially in the older muscle cars, because of brakes. I mean, brakes back then were barely designed to manage the weight of the wheel and tire that they're dealing with back then. And you start to add in the fact that you've got more of a radius on that wheel. It makes the braking performance just that much worse. So not a big fan of it. Not a good look either. I think a lot of the cars suffer when you start to put larger wheels on it, they don't look good. They look a bit cartoonish. One of the reasons why big wheels look good on modern cars is because they're styled around those wheels. The wheel arches are larger. They've they're designed again to work with that wheel, both from a performance and from an aesthetic position. So yeah, not a big fan of it. Don't really like it. The Hot Wheels-ish look is to me it's kind of fatty a little bit. It's kind of a fad and not really my cup of tea. Let's see. Oh, one and only. Hollering back at Sam saying, you're right. The $8,000 exhaust I did cost me $2,100 in parts. The rest was all mine for bending the bending pipe an inch. This is basically what the guy argued for. Like, yeah, give them what they ask for. The harder they ask, the bigger the dollar signs. Ethan is saying, any opinions on Alejandro Flores? He's probably the best 5.0 Coyote tuner in the world for Lund tuning. Any possibility that the 392 will grow to the point of that of the Coyote? Now Alejandro is good. Alex Pites is also really good with tuning that Coyote. Check out Jay, the owner of HP Tuners. Check out his Mustang. That thing made over 1,000 horsepower on the Mustang dyno. So yeah, no, he's good. He knows his stuff, and he's been around this stuff for a long time, and he's active in the community. I mean, that's the type of guy you want if on your side, and the type of guys we need in the communities. Funny to listen to, and he's he knows his stuff. As far as the 392 elevating to Coyote status, no, it won't. And really, the main reason for that is that it doesn't YouTube well. The cars that it is installed in are heavy, and you're going to be hard pressed to drag that extra 800 pounds down the quarter mile, regardless of what forced induction you've thrown on it. So they are an amazing engine in their own right, and 11s is screaming. And most 5.0s naturally aspirated are going to have a hard time dealing with a 392 powered car. It's just the way that it is. And you start getting into mods and the what ifs, or if I did this or that or what have you, that's whatever with that. But the reality is that you're talking about a much lighter car. Takes well to boost, provided you do all the the prerequisite things you need to do to make sure that car is going to hold together. But I mean, I got to be honest with you, I don't see the 392 getting to that level. But it doesn't need to. The Coyote is really good at what it does, and when they're left alone, at least back in the day anyway, I mean, they were basically a bomb-proof car. So, you start to look at it from that standpoint, or that point of view, they're really not anymore. And, with the typewriter tick and with transmissions breaking and things like that, I don't know. The Coyote really isn't the Coyote that it used to be. It used to be, it was the car that you could pretty much set your watch to. You could do anything you wanted to with it. And with the newer Coyote, again, I don't know where the disconnect here is. I don't know if it's not using the right oil, and that's causing the tick, and they're not using good materials and transmissions, what's causing them to blow up. But they're not the durable, badass pony car that they used to be. And to me, that's a shame. That car needs to be setting the standard for durability, not unreliability. Let's see. Jay saying, I'm noticing a little reverb type of feel and sound from the exhaust around 45 to 50 miles an hour while it's shifting from 6th into 7th. Well, what all I got done to it? Actually, some of them will drone a little bit, but shouldn't be that big of a deal. Yeah, it's interesting. If you're getting some reverb, do you have the mids? I can't remember, Jay. Do you have the mids cut off of that car? If you do, that's definitely you're gonna have a little bit of drone, but not that much. Go 74. What engine is better to mod, a dual overhead cam or the push rod? Well, it all depends on packaging at that point. I mean, to be honest with you, would prefer the push rod just from a simplicity standpoint. You know, you look at the LS. I mean, the LS is a push rod and super easy to modify and makes a ton of power and easier to work on too. So from that standpoint, I like the 2-valve. The 4-valve has its place, provided you don't break anything or blow anything up. It's fantastic. But here lately, they've been showing themselves to be a bit fragile, and that is a case for concern for me. So if it's my money, I'll throw money at a 2-valve before I throw it at a 4-valve. Even though I know you can probably make more power with a 4-valve, it just doesn't matter too much to me because I'd rather have the 2-valve anyway. Jeffrey is saying, what's going on, Big B? What's going on, Jeffrey? Mark's saying, let's be honest, if there were a good aftermarket intake manifold, FAST would be the ones to make it. Lots of experience with pushrod V8s. That is correct. Let's see if they can make one for the Hemi that will actually work. Sam is asking, do you think a turbo on a 5.7 is a good idea? I think it's a great idea. You can make a ton of power with that 5.7 with the turbo, just like you can with an LS, if not more, just by the fact that those heads flow crazy with the 5.7. Let's see. Sam's saying, Ghost saying, Sam, it depends on how much boost you want. That's true. Jason saying, man, I just don't think I want to mess with my scat exhaust. Taser in track mode just sounds good. Then again, I wish I could hear the Dynamax bullets in place of the mids in person. Yeah, no, I've heard them. They sound pretty good. I do prefer the stock mids over them, though. I think the stock mids sound fantastic. Sam saying he wants to run about 10 PSI. Ghost saying he should be good. Got them hanging out for a minute. Let's see. Jay saying, I've seen the Coyote that looked bigger than a single overhead cam 427 camera, oversized valve covers or something, but it looked huge. They are huge in person. In fact, what's funny is when you see them outside of the car, you get a real sense for how wide that engine actually is. Ghost 74 saying, I agree, B. It seems like they would ruin ball joints and tie rods. Also seems like they would tip over. Yeah, they just weren't designed for that kind of stuff. And I mean, if you're building a show car, maybe, but even then, you know, it's not as, I don't know. It just doesn't have the same appeal to me that the newer cars have with that. Sidephonic saying, every Ford versus Chevy versus Mopar video, there's always that one Ford guy that says, look at that tiny 5-liter competing with all the big 6+ liter engines, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly. All the meanwhile, everybody lathering up at the mouth about this, you know, oh my God, are they going to put the 7.3 in the Mustang? Oh, cubic inches. I'm going, no, it's a truck motor. It's like asking if you're going to put a tugboat motor in the Mustang. That's not the kind of engine that it is, at least not now anyway. The CIA, Siphonic saying, damn, you hit that right. This is kind of funny that the CIA, how about them carbureted diesels, huh? Yeah, they get fantastic fuel economy. No, I'm sorry, they get good gas mileage. How's that for you? Justin's checking out saying, bedtime for me. Y'all have a good night. God bless. Same to you, my friend. See you shortly with your new manifold. Let's see. One and only SB saying, you are not the only one. It drives me crazy when you ask them, okay, what's your point? They tell me it's a 5.0 and are acting like I'm the moron. I know. That's the funny thing. So I don't know. Here's my thing with that engine. Yeah, you can make a lot of power with that car on boost. And if you strip it, put a real aggressive gear in it, yeah, you can make them go fast. But here's the problem. Have you ever driven them back to back? God, and I hate to, because I'm such a fan of Mustangs too, but it's a completely different driving experience. You don't want to drive a Mustang and then drive a 392 car back to back. The instant torque hit, that intoxicating thrust that you get from the torque of that 392, is going to make the 5 liter feel slow at just about in just about any scenario. And yeah, I get it. They'll rev to the moon and they're great on a roll run, but man, it just, I don't know. The only, I don't know. Don't get me started. I can go on for a while on that one. One and always hollering out, night, Justin. Richie Rich is saying, thank you and good night. Right back at you, Richie. Hope you have a great evening. Show Me Mopar saying, speaking of what ifs, how many pounds do you think they can shave on the new LX platform? Do you imagine a 3,700 pound car with a 392? Yeah, I can imagine it. I'm hoping they can pull at least 250 to 300 pounds out of it. That would put you right at about 4,000 pounds ish for an SRT or, you know, for a Charger really, and would put the Challenger in like the, I don't know, like the 3,900 pound, 3,800 pound range. That would be great. You know, get the thing down into a range where it's, you know, closer to its contemporary, so to speak. But here's my only concern with that. I don't want to see them make the car smaller. You know, I don't want the car to move too far away from what makes it so awesome now, which is the fact that, you know, it's just a big American hot rod. And I love that. You know, you know, it's like the B body has come back. And that to me is what I like the most about it. So big, comfortable, powerful, fast. That's the Mopar way of doing things. And if they pull weight, I'm just hoping that it doesn't mean that it's going to be significantly smaller. You know, a couple of inches off the front or the back, that's not going to change my opinion of it too much. But yeah, I just hope that they don't try to turn it into a direct line of sight competitor to Mustang and Camaro, because the thing that makes it so awesome is that it is the alternative to both of those cars. Let's see. Oh, missed something here. Ghost74 is saying, I have a funny story. I remember rebuilding my old 5.9 Magnum Dodge Ram. It was, looks like you said, left with some it had some parts left over. Man, have I come a long way from understanding engines. Man, I know the feeling on that. I figured if you had parts left over, it was just, you know, parts you didn't need. Let's see. Uncle Stinkford is asking, can you share a little bit of info on the infamous Hemi tick? My car is up on stands in garage right now. It's 10 freaking degrees with salt on the roads. My 392 ticks for quite a while until it warms up. Could be one of two things. It could be the exhaust manifolds that have backed off. Or it could be lifters. It could also just be dry lifters. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. If it goes away when it warms up, it just, you know, it's manifolds. If it goes away, if it doesn't go away when it warms up and when it's idling, if it ticks and then you give it throttle and it goes away, and then when you lift, it comes back with the vehicle warm, that's definitely a lifter, and you're going to need to get that taken care of. But for the most part, it is typically going to be a it is typically going to be an exhaust issue. Ethan Hack is saying 392 and boost, or is NA the better route? I prefer 392 naturally aspirated. The reason why I prefer it naturally aspirated is it seems to be a better all-around engine, naturally aspirated, number one. And number two, depending on how much money you have in your platform that with that 392, when you start to put boost to it, you could probably trade your car in on a used Hellcat and get a much more robust package overall. So I typically try to advise that 392s, NA, you know, cam, long tubes, that'll put you deep into the 11s. Just throwing boost on that car is not necessarily going to put you in a better place. In fact, there have been nights at the drag strip where I have shown my taillights to boosted 392s. So again, for me, personal opinion, just my experience talking here, 392s, keep them naturally aspirated. If you want something boosted, buy something that's already boosted. Damn, Go74, thank you very much. I appreciate that contribution. It says, thanks, B. Mason, but it's bedtime for me. Long live Revlon. Thank you so much. I truly do appreciate that. And yeah, she's a keeper. I really like that car a lot. We're having a lot of fun, and definitely definitely having a blast with her. That's for sure. And again, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And it's not going to be long for me either. I got to wake up early in the morning. Richard is saying, Mason, you guys in Texas ever do active exhaust valve delete? Every once in a while we do. MFR1 keeps exhaust valve wide open and check engine light. Put on my 392 exhaust sounds excellent. Yes, they are, and no, they're not cheap. I will typically open them up in the tune. But yeah, if you don't have access to a tune or you don't want to unlock your computer, you can go with those, and they work really well, and they do sound nice. You are right about that. Jay's saying, my 392 has no tick. Amsoil quiets that down. Mobile One seems to be more noisy. In some cases, it can be. I've run Mobile One for a while and haven't had any issues with it, but there are guys that have used other oils and have run into issues. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those luck of the draw type of things when it comes to that tick. Sam Grable saying, if Chrysler would factory turbo a Pentastar family, all EcoBoost owners would go crying home. I don't know. They're talking about an inline 6 turbo for the trucks. That would be pretty sick. The Pentaboost. I like it. Let's see. Guys, I'm going to finish up these questions, and I've got to hit the sack. I didn't realize it is, it's after midnight, and I got to get some sleep. We'll make sure I don't miss anybody. Let's see. Ethan saying, any advice for YouTube? I'm 22 and pursuing law school, but want to go the muscle enthusiast route for YouTube. Any advice? Just get out there and do it, brother. That's all I did. That's all I do. But yeah, just get out there and do it. As far as advice goes, that's the best I can give. Let's see. Jay Poma is saying, nah, I'm all stock exhaust, but drone is a great way to describe that sound. It's probably me. It only happens during city driving where the speed limit's 45 and it hangs in 6 longer. That makes sense. I mean, you know, they can get a bit droney in some of the higher gears, especially if you're under a higher load. Slowman goes saying, I messaged you on the gram today. Did I respond? I don't know if... Typically, I respond on those. Uncle Stinkford is saying, thank you. No, it goes away. Okay, if it goes away, then it is going to be... if it goes away, it's going to be the manifold bolts. It doesn't mean that it's a minor problem. You still need to get them looked at or get them fixed. But, yeah, it's definitely bolts if it goes away once it warms up. So he's just trying to be safe. I'm right there with you on that. Oh, man. Thank you very much, one and only. Dang. Say, there's my $45 missing a video and live. Oh, man. You don't have to do that, brother. I appreciate it, though. Got to get sleep. My 53-year-old body is done. Have a great one and see you next time. Man, I really appreciate that. I really do. So thank you very much. I don't want you to feel like you have to, but I really do appreciate the contribution to the cause. It's very much appreciated. And just so y'all know, that's going towards the battery fund. She's going to be needing a new battery here pretty soon. So new battery will be on the way. But thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Honestly, I really do. Thank you. Uncle Seek for saying, have a good night, B-Ride. Thank you for the stream. Thank you all very much. Siphonic saying, do you prefer C6 or C7 styling? I prefer the C7 Grand Sport and Z06 styling, but do not like the Stingray. Let's see. Richard saying, thanks, Mason. You always shed good light. Saying, no, I mean, you're not asking any dumb questions. Let's see. I'm losing here. Say, good night. My dumb question is now, how safe is it to send money or chat? Never did. No, man, I appreciate it. But thank you very much for just hanging out with me. I appreciate y'all donating to the cause. I really do, but I'm cool just hanging out. So, but thank you anyway. It means a lot to me and it helps me out a ton. It definitely helps me bring you guys content. So, thank you. But guys, I'm going to check out. Time for me to hit the hay. And until next time, y'all have a great one. Hopefully, if the track's nice, we'll be able to get you guys some live ride-alongs again. So stay tuned for that. If it's gross, then see y'all again this weekend. And again, y'all have a great one. That's a wrap. Adios.